welcomes Lavrov's proposal on the necessity of establishing a mechanism for direct security communication between Syria and Turkey. And the Russian National Security Council reviews the situation in Syria, while Moscow affirms that the civilian plane did not carry weapons. And army units stormed several hideouts for terrorists, inflicting heavy losses upon them. The Netherlands admits the existence of French terrorists in Syria, and Qatar admits that its armament for terrorists runs contrary to international law. Good afternoon. Foreign and Expatriates Ministry said in a statement that Syria welcomes what Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced at the Russian Federation Council on October 10th on the necessity of having a mechanism of direct security communication between Syria and Turkey. The ministry pointed out that Syria discussed with the Russian ambassador in Damascus its readiness to establish a joint Syrian-Turkish security committee to find a mechanism to control the security situation on both sides of the border in the framework of respecting the national sovereignty of the two countries. Russian President Vladimir Putin presided over a meeting of the Russian National Security Council. The situation in Syria was on the agenda. Spokesman of the Russian President, Dmitry Peskov, said that issues related to the economic, social agenda and the international relations were discussed during the meeting, with focus on the situation in Syria. The intercepting of the Syrian civilian plane by the Turkish authorities was a new chapter of Erdogan's government's violations of all international conventions, with the aim of opening new fronts against the Syrian people in implementation of the US sinister plan. More about that in the following report.
The Turkish warplanes accompanied the Syrian civilian plane and forced the pilot to land in Ankara airport, endangering the lives of the passengers.
What, do you want to kill us?
The Turkish authorities' violations were not only in the air but also on land when Turkish gunmen came to terrify the passengers who were asked to go to the waiting hall, after which the Turkish security authorities subjugated the plane to search and assaulted the plane crew. Not to mention locking the contents of the plane for long hours, in addition to having reservations on some contents for inspection. There might be articles in the international laws and agreements that allow a state to search planes passing through its airspace. But the problem lies in the Turkish government's flagrant violation of these laws and agreements through forcing the plane to land despite the fact that the pilot did not refuse to modify the flight course, which exposed the safety of the plane and the passengers to threats because of the sudden appearance of the Turkish warplanes without warning. Not to mention the inhuman locking of civilian passengers for many hours. The hostile Turkish behavior is additional evidence on the aggressive policy adopted by Erdogan's government, taking into account the training, harboring and facilitating infiltration of terrorists through its borders to Syria.
In Aleppo, an army unit killed scores of mercenary terrorists and confiscated their weapons in Kalam al-Jabal area. Another army unit targeted an armored vehicle for terrorists, killing many of them near Bab al-Hadid, Bustan al-Basha and the Sports Institute. In the city's countryside, 8 cars carrying weapons and ammunition for terrorists were destroyed. The armed forces also carried out qualitative operations in Harshu, Kafar Da'il, Khan al-Asal, Maskane and Al-Atarib, killing a number of terrorists, including the Saudi national Yahya Qaroush, and destroying a number of vehicles for terrorists. And in related context, in Qudsiya in Damascus countryside, security forces discovered a hideout for terrorist groups. Various kinds of weapons were confiscated, including machine guns, ammunition, binoculars, and explosives to target Syrian Arab Army members and civilians. In Deir ez-Zor Governorate, a unit of our armed forces killed a number of terrorists near a Rawda mosque in Al-Jbele neighborhood. Among them were Bashar al-Junaid, a leader of one of the terrorist groups, and the terrorist Ahmed Hussein al-Allu. A source in the province said that another unit of our armed forces destroyed a car equipped with Dushka machine gun at Al-Ummal neighborhood, in addition to destroying a pickup car that was carrying a number of terrorists. In another qualitative operation, our armed forces killed a number of terrorists and wounded others near the Huwayd agency in Sheikh Yassin. A factory for manufacturing explosive devices by terrorists was exploded last night in the basement of a building in El Rimouk camp. The explosion led to the collapse of the 4-story building and the death of some inhabitants and passers-by, and the wounding of others. The explosion also caused huge material damage to nearby buildings. The building lies near Loubier Street, which is one of the most crowded markets in the area. At in Hama Governorate, a unit from the Syrian Arab Army destroyed a Dushka-equipped car, killing the terrorists who were inside it at Al-Trimseh city in Mhardeh countryside. The Syrian Arab Army unit also killed and injured members from one of the most dangerous armed terrorist groups that accompanied the car. Meanwhile, engineering units dismantled an explosive device made of a metal cylinder filled with 30 kilograms of explosive materials. The device was planted by an armed terrorist group on the side of the main road in Knezir city in Hama countryside to target the passing by cars. And in Homs countryside, a unit of our armed forces carried out a qualitative operation, destroyed 2 cars and killed all terrorists in them. It also killed scores of terrorists in Tel Dow. A source in the province said that another unit clashed with an armed terrorist group that attacked the citizens and cut off roads in Tel Kelach city in Homs countryside, inflicting heavy losses among them. And in a Slebe neighborhood in Latakia, the competent authorities discovered a weapons store upon storming a hideout used by an armed terrorist group and seized RPG launchers, rifles, pistols, various kinds of ammunition, grenades, electronic equipment, communication equipment, remote control equipment, and materials used in making explosive devices. While in Idlib province, a unit of our armed forces carried out a qualitative operation in Wadi Daif near Ma'arat al-Nu'man, killing all members of an armed terrorist group, confiscating their weapons and destroying 2 cars equipped with Dushka machine guns. Another unit of our armed forces targeted a gathering of terrorists in Ihsim town, Zawiya mountain, and killed dozens of them. Among them were Abdullah Sheikh, nicknamed Abu Ayham, and Nasser Ibrahim al-Fadil. Another unit of our armed forces pursued an armed terrorist group in Saraqib area and killed scores of them. Among them were the leader of the group called Usama Aboud Hassan Hamsho, Abdullah Sheikh Dib, Jum'a al-Khani, Muhammad Abdul Qadir Shlash, and the Iraqi Ammar Zabur. In other qualitative operations, units of the armed forces killed gatherings of terrorists in Khan Sheikhun, Ma'arat al-Nu'man, Hij town, and in nearby villages. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, France, Britain, and the US, who stand behind sending mercenaries and terrorists from all nationalities to Syria to kill the Syrian people and destroy their country, are facing now terrorism that started to appear in their countries.
Death squads which were sent to Syria under an American leadership and financed through money of the Gulf oil started to turn over those who sent them. Following the American acknowledgement that Al-Qaeda and terrorists exist in Syria, the French President François Hollande calls for the necessity to reach an international policy to face the terrorists and admit that there are French terrorists in Syria. In a television interview, Hollande said that he knows that there are French citizens in in Syria and they might go back to France with terroristic intentions, adding that he cannot accept that because it will threaten his country, but he ignored the killing and destruction which those mercenaries caused to Syria and its people. Hollande tried to avoid what the former internal intelligence director in his government, Bonnet, did when he called for cutting the head of the snake and accused Saudi Arabia and Qatar of financing whom he called as extremist Islamists in France. In an interview with Le Dépêche, a French paper, Bonnet said that combating terrorists requires stopping the source financing them, adding that the problem lies in some Wahhabi countries and that no one dares to talk about Saudi Arabia and Qatar, but it is better for those two states to stop financing some suspected campaigns. Regarding the special treatment of Qatar in France, Bonnet said that the file of Qatar must be opened one day. With respect to the network that was dismantled last Saturday, the former director of French intelligence said that it is difficult to discover similar networks because they use persons who changed their religion and are difficult to expect that they might commit such acts.
The Egyptian parties and movements participating in the demonstration held the Egyptian President Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood group responsible for the events that took place in Tahrir Square, which resulted in the fall of more than 100 injured. In a joint statement, Ad-Dastur and the Popular Movement parties condemned the aggressions launched by the Muslim Brotherhood against the peaceful demonstrators, describing this attack as barbaric. The two parties condemned the twisted ways taken by the Freedom and Justice ruling party with the aim of thwarting the movements of the Muslim Brotherhood government opponents and cover up their failures. For his part, the head of the gathering party, Rafat Sayyid, said that the fascist Brotherhood showed today their reality. The Muslim Brotherhood want a general attorney to protect them and gather them in a Tahrir Square to prevent the Egyptians from expressing their opinion, as he stressed that the Egyptian people won't give up, and the leftists are working to overthrow the brothers' leadership. The Egyptian parties, movements and forces called for an emergency meeting to discuss the situation and take the required measures. In the meantime, the participants in the Putting Mercy into Account demonstration and the forces in Tahrir Square announced their sit-in in the quarter despite the events that took place there, until the establishment's committees fails to put a new constitution and responding to their demand. And with this we come to the end of our news for today. For more details, visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. But now stay with us. After the break, Khalid has the latest in economy.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The Transportation Minister announced that the ministry is willing on getting new planes or new passenger planes for the Syrian Arab Airlines after the next year in the context of a strategic project and the capacity of the Aviation Foundation. The minister also pointed to the ministry's plan to renovate the fleet by buying new passenger aircraft. 18 ships have docked at the Tartus port yesterday as they are now unloading their cargo. Some ships are also in the waiting stage. These ships are carrying on board iron, timber, marble blocks, cement, coal, and cars, as well as foodstuff such as sugar, rice, corn, and bananas. The director of the Tartus port said that the harbor is witnessing an active movement of ships during this period. The Deputy Minister of Agriculture announced that the ministry has succeeded in targeting about 18,000 poor families as they were able to benefit from the loans offered by the Women Empowerment and the Rural Poverty Reduction projects. The Deputy of the Minister of Agriculture said that the national workshops held by the ministry under the slogan Small Projects for Rural Women and Their Role in the Process of Rural Development aims at shedding light on the ministry's microcredit loans and enterprises, especially for families headed by women, in addition to organizing overseeing and coordinating the efforts of the popular organizations and civil ministries and institutions to develop a central plan to target the most vulnerable areas and the ones that have been affected during the current circumstances. He pointed out that the ministry has adopted policies and strategies for the development of the rural women seeking to achieve the economic empowerment, which will reflect positively on their status. Syria's total production of olives for the current season is estimated at 1 million tons. This is according to the Olive Bureau's estimates at the Ministry of Agriculture. It is expected to result in about 175,000 tons of olive oil and 170,000 tons of olives. In related news, 38 olive pressers in the province of Hama started the trial runs in preparation for this season. They have a daily capacity estimated up to 3,000 tons. The head of the olive cultivation division explained that this process is necessary to remove all the dust from the production lines. The economic crisis in Spain is affecting the toll motorway companies, as several companies have already gone bankrupt. Many companies are suffering from the economic crisis that Spain is in. Even the toll motorways, which over the past 5 years have lost about 30% of their customers. 2 companies have behind the operation of the country's toll motorway have filed for bankruptcy, and 3 are expected to follow. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's a look at the exchange rates according to the bulletin that is being issued by the Central Bank of Syria. With this, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our news bulletin for today. Thank you for joining us.